Tired of flashing your team and being sprayed down by a blinded phantom, or being knifed by a lurker when you try to drone with Sova? Well, now's the time to lock in Fade, a well-rounded team player who will set up your team for easy frags after watching this video. Fade has been used as an aggressive initiator by upwards pro players thanks to her deafening utility. Since her release, Fade has become a strong part of Valorant's meta, and after recent updates, mainly to the Prowler's health being buffed, Fade has become a core part of today's meta, even dethroning Sova on some maps, who was an untouched part of the meta since beta. On maps like Pearl and Lotus, Fade's ability combination strategies have made her a great playmaker for characters such as Raze. I'll leave a timestamp on screen if you want to skip this part, but first let's speedrun the basics. Fade is an initiator that thrives in clearing ratty angles with her Prowler for her teammates to push on attack. She has two Prowlers that cost 250 credits each that will latch onto any single enemy that it spots in its field of view. She can spot enemy locations by throwing her Haunt ability onto ledges that scans enemies. This creates a terror trail leading to their location. The Haunt lasts for 2 seconds whilst the terror trail lasts 12. This is her signature ability and is reusable 40 seconds after being thrown. After spotting an enemy, you can use a Prowler on the trail and it will follow at a crazy speed towards the marked enemy. Next is her Seize, which is used to capture any enemies caught in its radius and deafen their audio and decrease their health substantially to make them easy targets for you and your teammates to take out. Her ultimate, Nightfall, is a good combination of her Haunt and Seize. Any enemy it hits will deafen them and create a trail that leads straight to their location, so you can use a Prowler to help close the gap and allow you or your team to chase and kill the enemy. Now that you've learned the basics to Fade, let's go into a bit more detail. Briefly covered earlier, the Haunt is an ability that spots and scans enemy locations that are seen in its line of sight, inflicting a terror trail. The entity lasts for 2 seconds and the terror trail lasts up to 12, following the scanned player until the timer gets run down. It has a 40-second cooldown, making it reusable. Like Surface Recon Dart, Haunt can be broken with 1 bullet of any gun. Haunt has 1.5 seconds of airtime before landing directly downwards until it hits a horizontal surface. However, you can decrease that airtime by pressing the Haunt ability button for a second time. Haunt is best used in the form of a lineup. This is because it will catch enemies off guard due to the countless possibilities of spots where the Haunt can land. This allows optimal chances of gathering information for your team. And make sure you are using different lineups or throwing your eye at different times. The good thing about having a good lineup that you know will scan people in the area is that if it doesn't scan anybody, you have information for your team they aren't in that location, giving your teammates a heads up that they might get pushed on the other side. It is really important that you have variety for this reason, because the enemies could just wait and hide from your eye before slowly walking up and surprising you. Fade's Haunt is best used by your teammates. Maybe your Omen has an Odin holding lane on B site ascent. You throw your Haunt onto the B main window and it scans 2 enemies. This lets your Omen spray down the 2 enemies through the wall, giving you good man advantage for that round. There are plenty of lineup videos on YouTube, but I'm going to show you a few for some maps before moving on to the next ability. So the first lineup is going to be for bind. You want to line up in the corner of these boxes and aim at the point where this vertical line meets with the horizontal lines. This is a jump throw lineup and is most effective in combination with a teammate who wants to push up this and get some easy kills. For this lineup, you want to stand in the corner of the first box in hookah on B and line up your crosshair with this beam and bring your crosshair so it stays in line but is in the region where you can throw it outside. This is a normal throw and this eye is sure to give some pretty valuable information, and your teammate could play off this by waiting for a scan, then peeking to kill 1 enemy and get out. If nothing is scanned and there is no sound on A short, then unfortunately it will most likely be an A showers or B long push. Now, moving on to Ascent. For this lineup, you're going to want to get on top of these boxes, line your crosshair up with the section where 2 spikes join up, and left click throw. This eye is unpredictable and will scan anyone playing Gen. On top of these boxes on the close right of the choke and the close left near the door, doesn't clear heaven very well. It also doesn't clear hell or dice if the enemy is hiding behind the box on the right side to avoid the eye. For this one, you're going to want to line up with the top left corner of these grills and place your crosshair in the corner of this AC unit thing and just left click throw. This lineup lands in the corner up here and it clears all of lane for anybody playing close with shotguns, so really good against eco rounds. And it also clears most of B site, except for backside boathouse. This lineup for Pearl is to attack A site. You want to line up with this round pebble just after the rug near the wall bangable box. Then you want to line up with this point in the barrier in the sky, just left click throw. This lineup will scan pretty much all of sight and back sight, but not underneath where you've thrown the eye when pushing the choke. But it doesn't scan back sight if the enemy is hugging against this wall. This gives you a lot of information in order to execute A, especially if you have a jet that's looking to create space on sight and maybe find a kill to secure a plant. Line up with the edge of the archway connector and aim at the peak of this curvy line and then left click throw. The eye should bounce and land on the corner of this structure and scan all of mid. It also scans anyone who is holding double doors from shops. This is very helpful to get space in mid and start looking to lurk towards one of the sides if they choose to ignore middle. Fade has 2 Prowlers that can be manually controlled by holding down the fire button until an enemy is spotted in the Prowler's line of sight or the timer runs out and the Prowler vanishes. Each Prowler costs 250 credits and is best to use to clear ratty angles to avoid being blasted with a shorty on your full buy round. Once a player is spotted by the Prowler, it will lock onto them and chase after the enemy. If they are hit, the Prowler will nearsight them, allowing for a much easier time to kill. The Prowler is best used to gain space for your duelist to explode onto sight. Prowlers are also useful for a mechanic called Prowler peeking. This is where you line up your Prowler in the direction you want to swing, so if an enemy is holding it, they are forced to either mess up their crosshair placement to kill the Prowler, or keep focusing on you, where your head would be. Like with Hornet lineups, it is best to have a variety of Prowler peeking and non-Prowler peeking to stay unpredictable. Now we're on to Fade's Seize or Stick ability. This ability can be thrown normally with the same airtime as the horn, or it can be manually dropped earlier by reusing the same ability key. Upon hitting the ground, the Seize ball of ink will explode and create a zone in which enemies who are caught in it cannot escape the zone by normal means, including running, jumping, or even ray satcheling. Fade's Seize is also useful when trying to clear angles that aren't fully visible but are likely to have an enemy hiding it, and you'll be able to see if you've caught someone because the ball in the center of the circle will be visible. This is good for attacking a site when you need to clear an angle further back into a site or a common rat angle. Likewise, Seize is good to use on defensive retakes to clear and push areas the enemy is likely to hold as your team push out. One example of this is on Seaside Haven, behind platform. The enemy cannot be seen normally, so throwing a Seize is very useful to see if it catches anyone hiding behind there, allowing you to kill them and take sight. Another use for Fade's Seize ability is to stop and delay pushes onto sight from both the attackers when holding down a site and defenders when in a post-plant situation. Moving on to Fade's ultimate ability, Nightfall. It requires 8 ult points, and when used it will unleash a wave that decays, deafens and marks a terror trail on any enemy it hits during the wave's push. It is essentially all of her normal abilities put into one crazy big ability that has 2 main uses. The first use is for attacking a site. You can use your minimap to line up where the ult will hit, so you can coordinate with your team which areas still need to be properly cleared using other util, like a Sova recon dart, and which places will be deafened, meaning you won't have to walk up to stay unheard when clearing angles. This gives the attackers a much easier time of getting onto site because any enemies marked will be given a terror trail that leads to them. This allows Fade to use a Prowler to chase the enemy and then blind them for an easier time of clearing the site and getting the spike planted. The second main use for Fade's ultimate is for retaking a site on defense. All marked players receive that same terror trail, which eliminates a lot of angles that the enemy could have been playing, making it a lot easier for the defenders to take back control of the site and defuse the spike. And that is just about everything you need to know about Fade right now. There are other factors that will make you an even better player, such as timings of using your utility, but that comes with putting time into the game and trying out new things. So keep learning and implementing new strategies and you will see improvement. I hope you have found this video useful, and don't forget to share this with someone who you think could benefit from this information. Have a great rest of your day.